Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning for this session that is titled Finding Hidden Revenue with AI and Efficient Lead Routing. I'm joined with my friend Victor Belfor, who is the SVP of Business Development at Conversica, and I'm Mathew, the VP of Business Development at LeanData. And we wanted to share this content with you because Victor and I were at a customer conference, or I believe it was a trade show. Either way, there was an event where one of our mutual customers was presenting, and he presented how beautifully Conversica and LeanData are working together. And then once the presentation was over, we were so inspired by what we had experienced that we said, I think that other people could leverage this material and find hidden revenue. And so we came up with the idea for this webinar, and that's how we got here today. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to explore how optimized conversations lead to efficient conversions. Then we're going to look at how LeanData works as a technology. We're also going to explore how Conversica works as a technology. And then we're going to give you some use cases. I know there's a lot of use cases out there where the two technologies could beautifully work together, but we're going to share a couple of use cases with you on how the technologies can be best applied to your businesses today to reap maximum benefit. And then we're going to share another example how one of our marquee customers is leveraging the two technologies at scale globally. So it's no secret that when customers or prospects come into the funnel, they're not really ready to make a buying decision or go on a buying journey with you. Actually, the data shows that 73% of the people that are entering your funnel, which we call today leads, aren't ready to go on an intent-based journey with you to buy your software. They're merely interested, they're kicking the tires, they're looking for information. And so what happens is all of us folks on the phone today, we have people dollars and we have program dollars. And in most cases, we are taking those people dollars and investing in SDRs. And then as those prospects are coming through the funnel, we are connecting those prospects directly with SDRs. And what that does is, at least in our experience now, we believe that is an inefficient model. Because if you have somebody who is just looking for some information or just kicking the tires and being nurtured, and you're putting a highly expensive resource that is costing you guys money, and you're making sure that that person connects with that prospect to have a real conversation, that's not necessarily efficient. And so we believe that there's a technology that is the answer, and then there's also a technology that connects the two parties together. It connects the prospect with the person on the other side, which is an SDR today, and then there is a technology that makes sure that that prospect connects with the SDR at the right time. And today, we're just browsing and looking at your products and then engage them so that when they're ready, then we route them efficiently to a person as well. And so today, a couple different things happen outside of just the situation that I shared with you. A VP of sales comes in through a chat or through a web download. Somehow or the other, he engages with the company. And then we also connect that person with a SDR who, quite frankly, isn't the most educated person inside the company to handle a VP level conversation. Now, I love SDRs, and I know there's plenty of them out there that can totally do this or handle a conversation at that level. But not a lot of those people are out there in the marketplace today. And so what we've done is we've taken a VP of sales, engaged him with a SDR, and the buying experience is botched. And so the better way to do it is to actually take that VP of sales and push that VP of sales very quickly over to an AE and have an educated person help that VP of sales make a buying decision or get that information so that he or she can move on to his next thing. So I've introduced a couple of concepts, right? One is save your people dollars for people that have an intent to buy your solution. And then two, make sure you make the right connections when engaged audiences are coming to your website or engaging with your company. And so why is all of this so difficult? Well, it's difficult because today we use the Salesforce, who is all of our CRMs, all of ours, at least most of the people that are on this webinar, is their CRM solution, and it's become a database. Because you have marketing automation pushing data into it, you have third-party software pushing data into it, you have sales reps creating leads, accounts, opportunities, and so you've got all this data, and there's a bunch of duplicates. And so before you can even take any action on this data, you've got to figure out a way to give that data some context. And that's what LeanData does. We attach or we find a home for these free radicals who we call leads, and we match them to the right account so that there is some context to that relationship. And then the minute we do that, we, in hyperspeed, route it to the most eligible person for that conversation. That could be an SDR, that could be an AE, that could be a partner rep, it could be a customer rep. Whoever the audience is for that lead, we in hyperspeed route that person over. We also have some solutions that allow you to see the performance of campaigns, and one big insight-based feature that we have released which allows you to see when leads are flowing through your system, where are they flowing to, who's getting them, are you successful with the flows that you've created, and I'll expand on that in a little bit. So let's take a look at the first problem that we solve with the data, matching. When you have multiple people engaging from a company and they come through different routes, one could be a webinar, one could be a download form, one could be a demo request, you, in some form of way, you've created these duplicates inside of your CRM. When that person is not attached to the right account, you're not able to take action on that data, especially if you're pulling off an ABM campaign. Also what happens is when these leads are not matched to an account and you have these duplicate leads, we all who love marketing send a bunch of emails out, and the same person is getting 2 or 3 or 4 emails. And now you've created confusion amongst the buyer because that buyer is getting 2 or 3 different messages, and he's confused. So the best thing to do is to match the leads to an account, and the way we do it is we provide a fuzzy matching algorithm which finds the best set of accounts that that lead can be matched to. Then we use our tiebreaker technology, which allows us to pinpoint exactly which account is the best account for that lead to be matched to. And then what we've done is we have found a home for that lead. Once we found a home for that lead, you can do all kinds of segmentation, you can do all kinds of different types of marketing that you want to go do with that lead, or you can pass it on to the right rep for a meaningful conversation. That's where routing comes into place. And now, what's happening in the world today, as I shared with you earlier on, is highly educated buyer comes in, does not connect with the right person, loses momentum, and does not buy, or does not even go through a meaningful buying cycle. Or highly educated person comes in, is not followed up in a timely fashion, whether it's by human or it's by technology, and also does not go through a buying experience. Here's the problem why a meaningful connection is so hard to be made. It's because you have these assignment rules in Salesforce which are very hard to codify, i.e. create, and they're even harder to maintain. I mean, just look at the screen on the left-hand side. If you were somebody who is working with routing rules or assignment rules in Salesforce.com, this is your world. LeanData figured out a much, much, much better way to solve for this problem and give the power to create and update and maintain these rules to sales ops or marketing ops versus the Salesforce.com admin. And so on the right-hand side, we created this WYSIWYG editor, which allows you to quickly pick up the nodes that you want to, the way you want to, for the leads to flow. And we've given you multiple choices. Like you can assign ownership, you can do round robin, you can run territories, you can do field updates, you can do notifications. It's a very feature-rich system that allows for speed to lead. And then we created insights. And insights show you success reports, they show you failure reports. My favorite one is the third one because it shows ownership distribution. And in an environment where reps are always whining about leads or opportunities that they have or they don't have, this ownership distribution easily allows you to see who got how many ops or how many leads in a team, and if there's imbalance, then where do you need to go and dive into and see why that specific team or team member isn't getting their fair share to be successful and hit quota. But even more important, in this WYSIWYG GUI that we've created, you can easily click on anything that has an underline on it, and it will show you why something failed or why something succeeded. So the auditing is already built in. So for high growth companies, especially some of our customers who have gone public recently, I would say the 14 out of the last 18 companies that have gone public leverage LeanData for their execution of their go-to-market. What they're doing is as they are tweaking their go-to-market strategies every quarter, or even some of them are doing it monthly, their ability to execute or put that go-to-market strategy or go-to-market strategy tweak in motion is so fast because of the way we've created our solution. So once you have the plumbing in place, then you have to really decide, hey, am I going to route this to a person, or am I going to route this to a conversational assistant? And the way to determine that is why I want to bring up my friend Victor Belfor to guide us through how to decide which route to take and what is the appropriate time to make that connection. Victor, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Asher. I see a question in our queue that has to do with something you were talking about. On one of the previous slides, you mentioned that, not you didn't mention, but there was a graphic that said that 14 leads failed in a particular example. Can you comment a little bit why that happened?
Absolutely. One of the top reasons why leads fail is because the end person is either on vacation and they did not set up their vacation setting right, or they were no longer at the company, and in the massive chaos that these high-performance companies go through, somebody forgot to update his status. And that's why that lead failed. That's one of the top reasons. There are many others which I'm happy to go over with you guys on one-to-one, or we can actually send a summary of the few reasons after this webinar.
Wonderful. Thank you, Asher. All right. Great start to this discussion. I think if I remember our conversation at that conference correctly, Asher, one of the topics that we talked about and where we see major synergy between LeanData and Conversica is LeanData is absolutely exceptional at connecting the right people to each other. So if it's a customer, connecting them to a CSM. If it's a prospect who is ready to engage, perhaps connecting them to at the senior level, let's say, connecting them to an AE, at the junior level to an SDR, and so forth. What Conversica is exceptional at is connecting them at the right time when they're ready to talk to each other. So that is really the biggest takeaway out of this whole webinar is this solution together allows you to connect the right people who are ready to talk to each other at the right time. So the problem that Conversica solves is the problem of very, very poor follow-up. You guys filled out the poll. Everybody has SDRs. Everybody knows that rules of engagement for sales departments tend to be somewhere in the area of 6 to 12 attempts, right? And we know that nobody does that. And so what we see is that vast majority of SDRs or AEs stop after 2 attempts. Doesn't matter what the rules of engagement say. After 2 attempts, people drop off. And it takes a lot more than that to really reach a prospect or a customer or any person, right? I can give you an example of a customer that we have, which is a very large private jet manufacturer. For them, because these tend to be either corporate executives or high net worth individuals making purchasing decisions, believe it or not, it takes on average over 20 attempts to get the response from that. There is no human who is going to do that. I want to call your attention to this graph. So as you see, we did a study, and it shows that on average, SDRs or salespeople make 2.1 follow-up attempts. What's interesting about this graph is that it appears that intuitively they're probably doing the right thing. As you can see here, after a couple of attempts, the chances of reaching that prospect of that customer drop off dramatically. And so using human resources and human dollars on a problem like this may not be cost effective. And so this is why we introduce our AI system to solve this problem. And so what I would like to do is to introduce you to Rachel. Rachel is a virtual assistant for sales and marketing teams, the only one product in the world that does this. She has a lot of human qualities. She manifests as a human. She has, as you can see, she has a name. Ours is called Rachel, but a number of other companies call her different things. Each company chooses their own name. She has her own email address, phone number. She reads emails. She understands what they mean. She writes natural language responses via email or text, and functions pretty much as a part of the sales team. And very importantly, she's completely autonomous. So she makes her own decisions and communicates both externally to prospects and customers, as well as internally to the rest of the sales and marketing team. Of course, she also has some quote-unquote inhuman qualities, right? She's infinitely scalable. So if you think about how your leads come in, it's never an even flow, right? You run a campaign, you have a spike. You do an event, you have a spike. It's a very spiky up and down flow. And it's very difficult for human sales team to scale to this demand. You're not going to hire additional SDRs just to, follow up after Dreamforce. Rachel doesn't have that problem. Today she can send out 10 follow-ups, tomorrow 10,000. She works 24/7. This is super important as well because, as you know, Asher was talking about various geographies, talking about putting the right people with the right prospects, right customers at the right time. And so if you have salespeople sitting in one place and you have customers and prospects in Asia or Europe making a request, it's very critical that responses come in very quickly, because that's the way you maintain, kind of parity with local companies, local vendors, local providers. She doesn't cherry pick. She doesn't prejudge leads. We have a lot of stories when a high-level executive quite deliberately logs into a webinar or to a white paper request, white paper download, using their Gmail or other non-company email. Very frequently, salespeople will simply ignore requests of that kind. But Rachel doesn't care. Rachel will follow up with anybody. And if that person is indeed interested, she will identify that. And she's always politely persistent. She will follow up as many times as necessary without ever losing her temper. She will never say something like, you've got those emails, right? Like something like, hey, this is the 4th email I'm sending. Why aren't you responding? She never does that. She never has a bad day. And so what I would like to do on the next slide is actually show you what one of these conversations looks like. So this is a conversation that was originally started because a prospect, whose name is Ben, downloaded our free trial. This is a real conversation from a Conversica prospect. And so after downloading this free trial, Ben receives the following email. Hi, Ben. Thank you for downloading our free trial. Would you be interested in speaking with one of our sales experts to learn more about our solution? Rachel, Customer Relations Assistant. In reality, you see a response here, but in reality, there were another 5 or 6 attempts to reach that person before Ben ever responded. And the follow-ups sound exactly sort of the same way, asking for the same thing, but always in different words. So the second email could be, the solution could be, I'm sorry, I'm reading notes. I guess people are having problems seeing this. Please refresh your screens if the slides didn't transition for you. So the second response could be something like, hey, Ben, following up on my email from a couple of days ago, if you're still interested in the solution, please let me know. And then a couple of more days go by, and she'll say, hey, I remember that you downloaded this free trial. If there's still interest in learning more about Conversica, please let us know. And so forth, until Ben responds. And what's very critical to remember here is that each message is unique. This is very, very different than staged conversations. Nobody writes these. Rachel is completely autonomous. Nobody scripts these for her. She writes each one individually. So what you will often see is in large campaigns, you will have, so let's say a Dreamforce, and you have thousands of scans. Each person will receive a message that asks them a very similar question, but each message is unique. They're being asked in a different way. And because of that, we're also able to reach customers much more effectively and prospects. And so a couple of days later, a few attempts later, Ben responds. And he says, thanks, Rachel. Really appreciate your persistence. As you can see, she has made some number of attempts. I was on vacation and then traveling for work. Yep, would like to speak to one of your folks. Phenomenal. As good as it gets in life, right? And so then she immediately follows up, and she starts stage 2. So each conversation has these 3 stages. Stage 1 is getting somebody to raise their hand, which Rachel was just able to do successfully. Second stage is identifying when and how these people want to talk together. Remember, the big takeaway here is putting together right people at the right time and over the right means and the right modality, right? So in this particular case, she writes an email that starts stage 2. Great. Rick can help and was hoping to give you a call soon. Is such and such number the best number to reach you during the day? She knows it's Rick because Rick is assigned to this particular prospect in Salesforce. Rick is an actual human being. Thanks a bunch, Rachel. Great. And the phone number that she has there is the phone number that she has on record in Salesforce. She follows up a few more times. Mind you, she will do follow-up in each stage until the person responds. And so after a couple of follow-ups, she gets the following response. No, I never check this number, which is very frequent, guys, because very frequent what we have in our Salesforce is we have people's landlines. I have a landline. I don't check it very often. But most people want to be contacted on their cell phones. So he responds, have him call my cell at this other number. Thanks. And so at this point, Rachel alerts Rick. And she sends out, like I mentioned before, she communicates both inside the company and externally. So she sends a note to Rick. We don't have it here, but the note would be, hey, Rick, I just heard from Ben. He's interested in engaging, and here's his phone number to call him during the day. After that, she starts stage 3, which is critically important and something nobody does anymore because we don't have assistants anymore. Only an assistant can do this. So a few days later, after Ben's call with Rick has been scheduled, she sends an email to Ben saying, hey, Ben, I just want to make sure you got all the information you needed. Did you talk with Rick? Thanks, Rachel. And after a couple of follow-ups, Rick responds, yeah, I'm all set with Rick. He's working on a quote right now. Thanks again. Wonderful outcome. But I tell you this, about a third of the time, the answer is actually negative. The answer could be, no, we had a call scheduled and Rick stood me up. Or I stood him up. That happens too. Something happened. Or, Rick promised to send me a price quote and forgot to send me a price quote, promised to send me product information, sent me information for wrong product. And so right now, in all of our funnels, these leads simply go to waste because we never catch that. With Rachel, nothing ever falls through the cracks. So moving to the next slide, if you guys are going to have an issue, please refresh your screens. So what I wanted to share with you is the actual impact that Rachel has on people's business, right? And as most of you are familiar with, normal responses in marketing, you should be able to interpret these numbers. So Conversica has over 1,200 customers, and you see some of them here, CenturyLink, Oracle, SAP, who is not on here, but they are a customer, Box, Microsoft is a very big customer of ours, Sacramento Kings, a number of other, Chrysler you see here, right? A number of very successful companies. Over the course of our existence, we have processed about 350 million messages. So Rachel is super smart. She's AI. She uses machine learning. And for machine learning, you need a ton of data. And so she has access to that. She's processed about 350 million messages. She worked about 50 million individual leads. About 15 million leads were engaged, 6 million sales appointments set, and about $10 billion in pipeline revenue generated. Her email response rate is 35% across our database of customers. Think about that for a second. This is not one of these marketing metrics like open rate or click-through rate. This is a real human being typing a message to Rachel on a keyboard, and 40% of the time, that message is positive. Yes, Rachel, whatever it is you want me to do, if you want to set up, if you want me to come in for an open house, if you want to set up a phone demo, if you want, whatever it is you want me to do, I will do it, right? Think about that efficiency compared to normal marketing campaigns, right? So the outcome is that she generates about 30% more appointments and demos than a sales team and a marketing team without her help. Think about what that lift means for your business. And so now what I would like to do is I would like to move to my next slide and talk about how this whole thing gets orchestrated together, right? And so we have a couple of different ways, in reality quite a few more, but there's a couple that we want to bring your attention to. So this is a schematic of how LeanData working together with Conversica helps ABM marketers. So with ABM, of course, you have your target list, and you're doing a couple of things with that target list. One of the things you're doing is obviously you have SDRs who are doing outbound and, pardon the old cliche, but dialing for dollars. You also are probably advertising to them a little bit, and you're doing some, maybe content syndication that's targeted specifically to these companies. And of course, you can also use Conversica for automated outreach. Rachel can just reach out to these companies in an automated fashion. And so some of these folks get engaged. When they get engaged, the first place they hit is they hit LeanData. So now you have an engaged person. That person might fall into a number of different categories. It could be an existing customer interested in a particular piece of content or interested in an upsell or a cross-sell. It could be an engaged lead. It could be somebody from like a win-back, somebody who used to be a customer. It could be a number of different engaged individuals who fall into purview of different departments. And nobody is better than LeanData at routing them to appropriate humans at the right time, which Rachel helped them determine. And I think at this point, what I would like to do is turn it over to Asher, and Asher will talk a little bit how we work together in the inbound marketing scenario. So we're on slide 24 right now. Asher?
Thanks, Victor. And I know we have a couple of questions that are queued up, which we are literally answering right now. And the questions are, how do these two technologies work together? What comes first? Does the routing come first, or does the conversational assistant come first? And Victor just shared with you the ABM scenario in which you have Rachel that is engaging leads, and once those leads are engaged, from a target account list, you can route them via LeanData, and you can also, in that ABM scenario, route accounts, because we enable account routing as well in LeanData. So we work with both leads and accounts. We also work with contacts and opportunities, but for the ABM scenario, you've got leads, contacts, and accounts that we are routing. Now, in the inbound scenario, this is where things get interesting, because people are hitting your web properties or just your inbound properties in a meaningful way, and they want to be engaged. But we know that there are specific algorithms specific formulas where you score those leads. And so the way we have seen this work is leads, LeanData routes them to humans. If the decision was, or if the disposition is unfavorable, and they're unengaged, we then push them over to Conversica. Rachel takes over, and she politely and persistently gets them engaged again. When they're engaged back, you leverage LeanData to either route it to a new AE or maybe route it to the AE who had context of that account. And so this is where the meaningful or optimized conversations take place, because it really comes down to the connection. And the connection is send the lead to the person who actually has had a conversation with that account first versus a net new person. Now, if that person is on vacation or he's no longer with the company, for sure send it to a new person. But give your sales reps or give the account the best propensity to be sold. Also, we look at the other side where you have B and C leads. And you, rather than sending them to humans, you send them to Rachel right away. And then once they're engaged, you then go and leverage LeanData to push it off to AEs or SDRs again. And this loop, as we learned about it from one of our marquee customers, is constantly happening because as time goes by, the leads get recategorized, and then they are engaged via Conversica, and then you leverage LeanData to route them to the right person. So those are a couple of the scenarios that we have wanted to share with you guys. I do see that there are a few questions that are teed up, and we'll actually answer them in the question and answer section. But Victor, I want to push this back over to you to talk a little bit about the customer benefits of leveraging both technologies at scale.
Thank you, Asher, so much. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take one of the questions here because it is, and answer it now because it really illustrates what we're talking about here beautifully, right? So there is a question on in the Q&A section. How is LeanData routing different from Conversica routing, right? And so here's the thing. Conversica has no routing, right? We don't attempt to route. What we do is we engage that person and we engage them in the language that they want. So we support something like 6 languages. We engage them in the time zone that they want. So you can have your office in Foster City, California, like we do, but have an agent who works European hours or Asian hours or Australian hours, right? And so we will engage that person on their terms, the way they want to be engaged, or perhaps more importantly, the way the marketer wants them to be engaged. Once they're engaged, we hand them over to LeanData, and LeanData, based on the rules that you determine, routes them to appropriate humans. And this could be, as Asher was saying, this could very well be account owners, if this is an existing customer who came in with a question of some kind, right? It could be an SDR team in the appropriate geography. Or the way we do it, we don't have offices in Asia, for example, but we have a group of salespeople who work in California late hours. And so leads that come in from Asia only go to that group of SDRs, not to the general queue, right? And so this a combination of technologies that puts right people with each other in a dialogue when they're ready to talk allows for this wonderful dynamic of tailored messaging based on the industry or geography, time zone. Obviously, you can do personalization and geographic awareness, right? So think about this as a. I'll give you an example that you guys probably will relate to. Imagine for a second that your foot hurts, like really bad, like maybe you broke your foot, right? And you call your HMO, and they say, hey, we would like for you to set up an appointment with your general practitioner. And you say, well, wait a minute, but I know what they're going to do. They're going to send me to a podiatrist. I mean, that's the issue. They said, no. Our procedure is that you have to go through general practitioner before you talk to a specialist. And so what combination of LeanData and Conversica allows you to do is to bypass the general practitioner. It allows you to go immediately to the specialist who is capable of answering your specific question and addressing your specific need. I hope this makes sense. I hope it answers the question. If it doesn't, please make another comment. But at this point, I want to pass it back to Asher. And Asher, why don't you do our key takeaways?
Thanks. Actually, I'll just take the second question that's queued up because it's timely as well. And the second question is, we are implementing both LeanData and Conversica, but want LeanData to be triggered after Conversica gets a hot lead. How will this work? What is triggered from Conversica to LeanData that needs to be configured? And so this is a little bit more tactical, and the way LeanData works is you point it to a field. Let's call it a lead score for this example, or you call it a checkbox that says hot lead. And the minute Conversica engages and determines that it's a hot lead, it will go in and trigger a hot lead checkbox. LeanData will automatically figure out that there is a trigger that was updated and then push routing. So the interaction between the two technologies is so seamless that it's in your control the way you want to design it. And that brings me to my key takeaways. In the example that we've shared with you, and as you grow your business, it is highly imperative that you leverage conversational AI for engagement at scale. And then when that engagement takes place, you will leverage a tool like LeanData to make sure that the connection is made to the right human. And then the last piece is the most phenomenal point of this whole conversation, as we learned by working with some of our mutual customers, was for Salesforce users specifically. Conversica and LeanData can be deployed in a matter of days. And as I just shared with you, there is no integration required between the two technologies. It's all trigger-based. And you can set up Conversica to create a trigger, and then LeanData will automatically pick up that trigger and take the next action. So again, if you want engagement at scale, leverage Conversica. To make the right connection to the right human, leverage LeanData. And all of this stuff can be done in a matter of days. So let's see if there are some other questions that are queued up by the audience. Okay, there's one more question that came up, which is, how quickly can LeanData be up and running, and do I still have to leverage the Salesforce.com assignment rules? So I just shared that LeanData can be up and running in a matter of days alongside Conversica. They can be parallel projects. And once you start leveraging us, you don't ever have to leverage the assignment rules in Salesforce at all. You leverage the graphical user interface that we've created. It's WYSIWYG. You drag and drop, you configure, you let it run. And if you want to update it, it takes a matter of seconds, and everything is done immediately. So there's no lag. You can also stage it. Actually, that's a good point. You can stage it. So say you're like, hey, I have configuration A running, and I just want to test out configuration B, or I want to one-time route all the accounts to all the new owners. We can do those cases as well. So again, a lot of the mid-market and above companies are leveraging the two solutions together. And if you're interested, either reach out to me or reach out to Victor. We can both help you guys out.
I think there was another question, Asher. Do you want to take that? That looks like a LeanData question.
Yep. So this one says, aside from routing, what other capabilities does LeanData provide around reporting specifically? reporting is not already possible in Conversica and or Salesforce. So this is great. And we have different types of reporting that we can help with. The most obvious one in this was the routing insights. You can easily extract the reporting around who got what lead, why did they get that lead. This is like one that comes up all the time, right? Why did I get this lead? Or why did I get this contact? And there's auditing built in LeanData that shows you how, when the lead came into Salesforce and the actions that took place for it to be converted and then assigned to somebody. That's one part. We can also tell you which campaigns produce the highest ROI because we are able to create relationships between these free radicals called leads and their home, which is an account. And once we do make those connections, we look at all the different marketing interactions and the sales touches, and we can actually show you the buyer's journey in a meaningful way on every opportunity so you can extract meaningful insight into how your customers are buying from you. Outside of that, every data point that we connect, you can extract and use a BI solution to visualize any of the data points that you want to solve the question you're looking to answer. Okay, Victor, back to you.
One question that I get asked a fair bit is what types of conversations are suitable for automation? And of course, what we talked about here is we really focused quite a bit on leads, even though Asher periodically mentioned that we can also do accounts and other forms of matching. But mostly we focused on leads, be it outreach leads and hitting an ABM target list, or inbound leads from our marketing campaign and demand gen. But in reality, a lot of conversations that we have in business have sort of the same cadence. So think about conversations like, win-backs, right? Hey, Asher, I noticed that you used to be a customer of Conversica. We miss you. We have a special offer for you. Would you like to set up a call with someone to discuss this further? Or event follow-ups, like, for example, something like a webinar. Think about getting an email in a couple of days saying, hey, Anna, thank you so much for attending this wonderful webinar. Would you like to set up a call to learn about Conversica and LeanData in greater detail? So win-backs, re-engages, upsells and cross-sells to existing customers, event scheduling, event follow-up. There's lots and lots of conversations that have a very similar cadence and for which conversational AI can be used. The phrase, anything that can be automated will be automated, has become a cliche, and it certainly is true in this case. If the conversation is routine and repetitive in nature, AI is a great, great way of doing it. Note from Akina, the Kings use it a lot for event campaigns. Oh, yes, they do. All right. So you see on this slide that both Asher and I are easily accessible. Please do not hesitate to email us. You will get a copy of this, so you will have our contact information. I promise you that if you reach out to me, I will personally write back. I'm not going to ask Rachel to do it. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Ilana to wrap this up.
Thanks so much, Victor, and thank you, Asher, for a fantastic webinar. So we have two exciting events coming up, we have two exciting assets, and LeanData puts out a State of the Revenue Ops survey, and this is great information on how to create a centralized revenue ops function. and the link is in the chat, so you can go to that directly. Also, here at Conversica, we have another exciting webinar coming up on August 21st, featuring Matt Hines of Hines Marketing and Nancy Narden of Smart Selling Tools on tips and tricks to crush your Q4 quota. So this is going to be a really great webinar that we hope you'll join us for, and the link is also in the chat as well. So thank you again for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. Have a great afternoon.